Welcome back, everybody. I am Not That Dr. Phil, and today we are reading a literature review about participation in secondary music classes. Again, everything I do here is read scholarly literature. I'm a music education scholar and researcher, so this is part of my way of keeping myself reading. I stream what I read. If you have any questions while I'm reading, if you don't understand anything, if you want to make fun of me for reading people's names poorly, feel free to drop something in the chat. And that's all I got for you. So let's get started. The title of our article today is Understanding Participation in Secondary Music Classes, a Literature Review. I read you the implications yesterday, so we're going to start today with the abstract. Also, feel free to let me know in the chat if the music is too loud, or if you can't hear me well enough, I can adjust volume, anything that we need. All right, so the abstract says, sustaining and increasing participation in secondary music classes has been a regular topic of discourse within the field of music education. Music researchers and professionals have recently addressed specific issues related to music participation, such as access to music classes, policy initiatives, and student interest in the music curriculum. This review of literature is an exploration of student enrollment trends in secondary music classes and a broad examination of the many factors that influence student enrollment decisions. In this review of literature, I frame music participation as a complex issue where multiple factors influence enrollment in secondary music classes. Next, research on the structural, interpersonal, and intrapersonal factors that affect music participation are presented. Finally, I address how music teachers and advocacy leaders might direct their efforts to support and increase music participation. This seems like a very almost practitioner-based, published in NAFME. No, where was it published? Published in Update. Okay. So this seems like it's geared towards helping music teachers figure out what they need to do to reach more people, which is great. We can always, in elective classes, especially music elective classes, be trying to reach more people. All right, here's our introduction. Researchers have recently evaluated the participation rates and enrollment trends in secondary music courses nationally. I don't know why I stopped my sentence there. These studies have yielded both encouraging and concerning trends about secondary school music participation. For example, ELPIS found high school students consistently enrolled in music classes at an average rate of 34% from 1982 to 2009, and the number of students continuing in high school music classes is increasing. While this trend is encouraging, demographic profiles of secondary music students have shown that students from low socioeconomic backgrounds, students with low academic achievement, and students of color are underrepresented in secondary school music ensembles, especially band and orchestra. Additionally, some scholars have expressed concern that only a portion of secondary students, 34%, participate in school-based music classes. That's what I'm talking about. We need to get that number higher. The representation of historically marginalized student groups and overall participation rate in school music programs are important and complex issues. Music educators agree these issues are an important topic of concern, but may characterize the problems, causes, and solutions in different manners. Given the multiple approaches to conceptualizing the issue of school music participation, the potential actions and solutions can be confusing and disorienting for teachers and scholars. One potential reason for these bewilderments involves the nature of the problem: the complexity of secondary school music participation. Secondary music participation is a complex a multifarious problem. It is difficult to unravel the intersecting factors that influence music participation to determine the actionable steps music teachers and advocacy leaders might take to encourage music participation. In many respects, the issue is more like a problem space, where any attempts to describe the problem or present solutions in sufficient detail must include an exhaustive list of the many causes of secondary music participation. For example, access, appeal, social influence, and conflicting activities. Still, even in fully describing the problem space, there are few one-size-fits-all solutions for increasing enrollment in secondary music programs because the factors that influence music participation likely vary in importance or effect based on different school settings, school size, school type, socioeconomics, and community culture. It is plausible that music educators at different levels and places may have different challenges and priorities related to secondary music participation, and therefore view sustaining or growing secondary music programs differently. Despite the challenge of describing the issue of secondary music participation, there is a growing body of research that is useful for clarifying the issue and informing potential solutions. Purpose. Although continued participation in secondary music programs may be problematic, it is worthy of investigation. Exploring ways to open new opportunities and encourage music participation for all secondary students, especially underserved populations, is an important endeavor. Ritchie suggested the first step in addressing a complex issue like secondary music participation is to first, quote, represent the total problem space and as many of the potential solutions as possible, end quote. To understand the issue of secondary music participation, it is essential to form a comprehensive view of the mechanisms that enhance or dampen involvement in school music programs and explore multiple perspectives on supporting music participation. This process enables teachers, advocacy leaders, and scholars to This process enables teachers, advocacy leaders, and scholars to decide which issues seem to influence school music enrollment in their sphere of influence and then act on those factors to support secondary music participation. Hawkinson's model of school music constraints is useful for broadly framing, defining, and delineating the relevant I don't know why relevant sounds like such a strange word right now. Irrelevant? Relevant. Yeah, it just sounded so strange. Delineating the relevant factors related to secondary music participation. Hawkinson showed that secondary students likely experience real and perceived constraints to music participation in three areas: structural, interpersonal, and intrapersonal. For each area, some students experience unrestricted entry into secondary music programs, whereas other students must negotiate constraints to their participation, sometimes encountering complete barriers to participation that are difficult to overcome. Empirical research findings on school music participation are useful for understanding how students negotiate constraints within each of these areas. Therefore, the purpose of this literature review was to A. examine the structural, interpersonal factors related to student participation in secondary school music classes, and B. explore how music educators might draw on research findings to encourage secondary music participation. For this review, secondary music participation was defined as enrollment or even the intent to enroll in any type of secondary music class, grades 6 through 12. I limit the scope of my investigation to empirical studies, research articles and dissertations published since 2000 that specifically addressed factors related to student enrollment in secondary music classes. While these music classes were typically large ensembles, all types of music classes were included in the search criteria. Beyond the research studies sourced from academic databases, additional studies deemed critical to the review of literature, even those beyond the inclusion criteria, were sourced from the research sections of articles or dissertations. I also broadened my search to include additional research literature from outside the field of music education that provided theoretical support, background, or context. I synthesized the research studies into Hawkins' 3 music participation categories: structural factors, interpersonal factors, and intrapersonal factors, and detailed implications for teachers, administrators, academicians? Why not just academics? And advocacy leaders. Okay, so we're moving on to the first category, structural factors related to secondary music participation. Opportunity and environmental support are very important for the development of interest and engagement in music programs. Therefore, a logical starting point for understanding participation in secondary music classes is to explore how secondary school structures promote access to secondary music classes. In Hawkins' model of school music constraints, the structural category refers to many layers of contextual or environmental factors, school, district, state, that enable or impede students' ability to participate in a music class. Access to secondary music classes. Let's put it there. School size and type. Research findings have indicated that school size and type, public, charter, and private, are the most robust predictors of access to secondary school music classes. Drawing on nationally representative data from the 2009 high school longitudinal study, Elpis found that larger schools are more likely to offer at least one music course when compared with small schools. He surmised this phenomenon is likely due to the economies of scale achieved in schools with a larger student population, staffing, physical space, and that traditional public high schools have the greatest likelihood of offering music instruction when compared to private and charter schools. Elpis explained that, quote, charter high schools were 89% less likely than non-charter high schools to offer music courses, end quote. Furthermore, students of color and students from a low socioeconomic background may be particularly affected by the reduced access to high school music classes because charter schools serve a disproportionate number of students of color and students from low socioeconomic backgrounds. Socioeconomic status and race ethnicity. Harsad and Spiegelman's analysis of the same HSLS data showed socioeconomic status, SES, was also a significant predictor of available music instruction in secondary schools. Results from the report indicated 96% of the schools with the lowest poverty concentration, 0 to 25% of students receiving free and reduced lunch, offered at least one music course compared to 81% of the schools with the highest poverty concentration, 76% or more of students receiving free and reduced lunch. The report also indicated schools with the lowest poverty concentration increased access to school music classes between the years 2000 and 2009, while schools with the highest poverty concentration decreased access to school music classes during the same period. The reduction in access to music classes in low SES schools particularly affects students of color because they are overrepresented in low SES schools. For example, researchers demonstrated the lack of access to school music classes for Black students in Miami, Florida, significantly contributed to less middle school music participation among Black students when compared to students from other ethnicities. Furthermore, the National Center for Education Statistics reported that 45% of Black students, 45% of Hispanic students, and 36% of Native American students attend high-poverty schools, whereas only 8% of white students attend high-poverty schools. the overrepresentation of Black, Hispanic, and low-income students in both charter schools and low SES schools indicates these populations are less likely to attend secondary schools where even one music class is offered when compared with white or economically advantaged students. Regional differences. Regional and local factors can also have an influence on access to secondary music course offerings, especially for marginalized students. For example, ELPIS found 59% of public high schools in the western United States offered music courses compared with 85% of the public high schools in the Midwest. Salvador and Alagood compared available music instruction in the Detroit metropolitan area schools with the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area schools. Results showed Detroit schools offered less music instruction in schools where the majority of the populations were students of color, while Washington, D.C. schools did not have the same disparities. Furthermore, students who attend schools in rural areas, I say that weird because I am from a rural area. Is it rural? I don't know. I say rural, so there we go. Now I've lost my place. Furthermore, students who attend schools in rural areas may be particularly affected by the lack of access to secondary music classes because A, rural schools tend to serve students from low SES backgrounds, B, rural schools are, on average, significantly smaller than suburban schools, and C, rural schools tend to have fewer resources, fewer staff, and less diverse course offerings when compared with larger suburban public schools. Yeah, I know growing up, music theory was on our course catalog, and I wanted to take it desperately, but I was not, I was like the only one signing up for it, so our school just would not offer it. Whereas, I work in a pretty rural area, but it's bigger. And just by virtue of it being a bigger school, theory is offered pretty much every year. We have a whole bunch of music collectives that I could never dream of. We teach piano here, we teach guitar here, history of popular music, music and cinema. We have all kinds of elective courses in music that I didn't have access to, not because I teach in a suburban school compared to the rural school that I grew up in. It's just a bigger rural school. So that has a lot to do with it. Anyway, back to the article. Equitable access to secondary music classes. Beyond basic access to school music classes, there is evidence to suggest that the quality or equity of access varies between schools. Undoubtedly, these factors also influence a student's ability or decision to enroll in secondary music courses. In this section, I will address constraints and barriers to access even when a school has met the minimum standard of at least one music course offering in a school. School-level support. Researchers have found that the equity or quality of school music programs can vary extensively between schools on the basis of instructional time, course diversity, financial resources, and teacher support. First, there is evidence to suggest schools that fail to meet the academic progress required by federal or state legislation may struggle to maintain instructional time and financial support for their music programs. Second, Harsad and Spiegelman showed schools with higher SES status not only provide more resources, curriculum, and training to their music teachers, but also offer a wider array of music classes to students when compared with lower SES schools. Third, as scholars have long discussed, inequitable access to music classes are compounded by music's subservient role to the broader secondary curriculum. Hey, I know him. Despite the addition of music as a core subject in the 2015 Every Student Succeeds Act, music has often been viewed as a secondary subject in American education. Such views may further limit access to music programs for marginalized students. Fourth, several scholars have shown higher income schools receive substantially more financial assistance through fundraising, student fees, and booster groups when compared with lower socioeconomic schools. Academic performance and English language proficiency. Where there is some process by which students who perform better academically are preferentially selected into music classes, especially band and orchestra classes. High academic performance is one of the primary predictors of participation in secondary music classes, even when controlling for other demographic factors such as ethnicity and poverty. In keeping with this trend, scholars also suggest students enrolled in special education are less likely to participate in secondary music classes. Researchers have shown that English language learners are likely not systematically excluded from secondary music classes. For example, in a study examining music participation trends of middle school students in Miami, Florida, Algrado and Winsler showed that middle school ELL students in Miami enrolled in music classes at similar rates to their peers. However, the study also indicated students who were English language proficient by 5th grade had 3 times greater odds for school music participation when compared with students who were not ELP. These results suggest music teachers need to look deeper than ELL status and make specific efforts to identify and develop relationships with students who are not ELP. While comprehensive explanations for these findings have yet to be sufficiently explained, scholars have suggested some potential causes related to patterns of academic performance and English language proficiency. First, certain populations within a school may not have functional access to the full school curriculum, including music classes, due to exclusionary scheduling practices. Yes. For example, school-level students that hold ELL students in language-intensive classes too long limit students' access to the enriching and diverse curriculum such as school music classes and rigorous academic classes. Furthermore, students with low academic achievement records are either tracked or self-selected into a certain course-taking pattern that steers them away from elective courses, especially music courses that require persistence over long periods of time, band, orchestra. Second, schools have responded to federal accountability mandates by restricting access to the arts for students who struggle academically, which are often low socioeconomic students, students of color, and students with individualized education plans. Okay. Scheduling problems. Scheduling problems are not just for ELL. Scheduling problems are happening everywhere because our solution to lower test scores are to provide the tested subjects with more time. So therefore, we have some classes that are given substantially more time than other classes. And the result of giving those classes substantially more time than other classes is a really, really screwed up schedule. What happens is we're giving math and English language arts an hour and a half a day. And usually the other classes are not given anywhere near that much time. Even if they are, that means you can only take like 3 classes a day, 3 to 4 classes a day. If they're not given that much time and it's done correctly, you might have 2 big blocks, is what they're called, a block schedule. So you'll have a big long class and then maybe a couple smaller classes in the morning, and then a big long class in the afternoon, or a couple smaller classes in the afternoon. The problem is this becomes harder to schedule, and the people making the schedules don't care to get everybody in music, because that's not their job. Their job is to get everybody the classes they need to graduate. It doesn't matter what the kids want. It matters that we have graduation requirements. It matters that we have state requirements. So when our elective classes are scheduled over a block that these kids need to take, they're out of luck. Scheduling is a huge problem for music programs across the country. Thus ends my rant. Back to work. School music programs as a closed system. Let me adjust my mic here. Get it where I want it again. I need to sorry, I got it. My best friend is planning I guess we're not getting back to work yet. My best friend is planning my bachelor party, even though I have been married for a while. I just never had a bachelor party, and he did not like that. So the bachelor party is not, he's taking me on a trip somewhere. But he asked me if I wanted it to be a surprise or not, and I said, yes, I would like it to be a surprise. And he just texted me and said, okay, rough outline of the bachelor party complete. That's like 2 or 3 months in the making. So I got distracted for a second, wondering what on earth he could have planned. Because who knows, but it'll be fun one way or the other. I'm excited for that. So we got to get all of our reading out of the way before I can go on my bachelor party. School music programs as a closed system. Some secondary music programs tend to operate as a closed system where inexperienced students have difficulty finding a point of entry into music programs because they lack the requisite skills and knowledge to participate in performance-based music classes. For example, Hawkinson conducted a mixed method investigation concerning why students do not participate in music education courses. The results indicated that school music program operated in a manner that should probably be programs, right? School music programs operated in a manner that blocked opportunities for enrollment in several ways. These included prerequisites of the music program, instrumentation and skill, costs, fees of transportation, instruments, trips. Other music education scholars have extended the idea of the closed system beyond skill level, time, and finances to conceptualizing the closed music program as closed to students with certain social or cultural identities. This issue will be addressed further in the interpersonal section of this review. Implications and recommendations. Findings from this review suggest actionable steps for advocacy leaders at local and national levels. Although the inequitable distribution of resources across schools is a familiar and persistent issue, evidence suggests the opportunity gap between economically advantaged and disadvantaged communities has grown wider over the past half century. The opportunity gap represents differences between children of wealthy parents and children of poor parents that extend beyond financial resources, family stability, early childhood education, K-12 education, and economic segregation of communities. The resource disparities between music programs are an important example of how wealthy students have easier access to enrichment experiences, resulting in higher amounts of cultural capital that provide advantages later in life. When advocating for equitable access to music classes and resources in charter, private, small, and economically disadvantaged schools, teachers and advocacy leaders may consider grounding their arguments in light of opportunity gap in light of the opportunity gap exacerbated by the growing economic inequality in the United States. I'm getting all kinds of text tonight, sorry. Research findings on structural barriers to music education also indicate that music education leaders, state and national music education organizations, professional development providers, music teacher educators may need to renew efforts to support the music teachers and students at schools who do not represent the typical suburban high school. ELPIS found that traditional and large public high schools were significantly more likely to offer music classes than small high schools and charter high schools. Compared with secondary schools in suburban areas, rural area schools are more likely to be rural area schools are more likely to be small, urban area schools are more likely to be charter, and both urban and rural schools are more likely to serve low SES students and/or students of color. Low SES schools and schools with high proportions of students of color also tend to have less music course diversity, fewer curricular resources, fewer financial resources, and unique challenges such as transportation costs and music teacher recruitment. Therefore, music education organizations and music teacher educators may need to focus their efforts specifically on continuing to develop effective music advocacy strategies for underserved schools and exploring how to support comprehensive music programs in schools that do not fit the profile of a large suburban secondary school. First, national and state music education organizations might work to spotlight the challenges of supporting music programs in small schools, charter and private schools, and schools with marginalized student populations. This might be accomplished by A, working with other philanthropic organizations that are focused on similar issues, B, structuring conferences and professional meetings to specifically support underserved schools, C, focusing legislative and lobbying efforts on supporting music teachers in small or charter schools, and D, providing research grants to support new insights in this critical area. For example, in 2017, the Society for Research in Music Education solicited proposals for a $10,000 research grant for understanding issues of diversity, equity, and inclusion in school music programs. Additional efforts such as these might help the music education community better focus advocacy efforts where access to small music classes are in most jeopardy. What did I just read? Additional efforts such as these might help the music education community better focus advocacy efforts where access to secondary music classes are in most jeopardy. Small, charter, and low SES. Okay. Moving on. In addition to advocacy strategies, music education organizations may need to more carefully consider how to support comprehensive music instruction for students who attend secondary schools without the resources, scheduling models, large student bodies, transportation systems, and economic security common to many suburban school districts. Music teachers and scholars have emphasized practical strategies such as A, the importance of tailoring instruction to reflect the values and needs of the local community, B, adapting instruction for flexible and small student groups, and C, working to cultivate support from administration, parents, and community members. However, secondary schools do not fit the profile of large suburban schools. Secondary schools that do not fit the profile of large suburban schools are still faced with the challenge of striving for excellence within a system designed for large music programs. Leaders of music education organizations may consider actively finding ways to celebrate the excellence and success of small and charter school music programs at regional and state and national conferences and festivals through providing professional development and financial resources. Finally, for most music teachers, the research findings on structural barriers to music participation highlight two primary areas that music teachers might look for with school-level structural constraints. A, course-taking patterns, and B, closed music programs. First, teachers and administrators might consider if their scheduling practices deny certain groups of students access to music programs because class scheduling patterns conflict with music class schedules. Music teachers should especially consider barriers for students who struggle academically, those who are not ELP, and students enrolled in special education courses. Second, music teachers may evaluate their current music programs to determine if they provide enough entry points for inexperienced students to join a music class, and if students can afford to join the music program. Okay, we're going to pick up with the interpersonal factors related to secondary school music participation. In just a second, I will be right back. All right, I am back. I had an appliance making a very strange noise, so I had to go unplug that and figure out what's wrong with that some other time. The joys of home ownership. Anyway. I just realized I could probably make this bigger for you. Well, but I suppose it's already plenty big. Nah, I'm going to leave it the way it is. All right. Access to school-based music classes is perhaps the first constraint students negotiate before enrolling in a secondary music class. Still, there are a number of interpersonal factors that constrain or encourage student participation. Parents, peers, and music teachers have a unique influence on the social identity, music perceptions, and development of young people. Social identity. A student's social identity, a shared identity with others, plays an important role in whether they participate in a school music program. Often, social groups carry presumptions of what is acceptable for people in a group. The social norms of a group may influence an individual's behavior because people inevitably seek actions that are congruent with their identity. Both broad social norms and personal social norms seem to have an influence on participation in school music programs. To illustrate this, it seems to be missing something. To illustrate, several scholars have shown that some males are reluctant to sing in school choirs because of negative cultural stereotypes associated with males and singing. Additionally, some studies have shown that a student's ethnicity is sometimes related to the type of music class they join. It is possible that some secondary students feel a conflict between their cultural identity and the priorities and norms of some school music classes. Beyond broader social norms, evidence suggests that students and peers have a unique influence on the perceived norms of students' social identities. I think my brain is shutting down today. Parents and peers. Children and adolescents' home environment influences their music development. Parents and siblings influence children's beliefs about their music abilities, the degree to which they are successful in music learning, and their value for music activities. Several studies have indicated students who perceive support for music instruction from their parents are more likely to participate in school-based music classes. Parents may support or discourage their child's music participation in a number of ways, such as assisting with practice time, encouraging music progress, providing interesting enrichment experiences, and offering autonomy in the pursuit of music interests and discussing their child's music interests. Peer influence is often cited as an influence on participation in secondary music classes. Indeed, studies on... Why did I just hear an echo? I'm not echoing, am I? Check, check, check. Check one, check, check, check. I don't think I hear. Okay. Sorry. Indeed, studies on peer groups have indicated that friendship groups have an overall influence on motivation in school, students' attitudes towards school, and their personal identities, interests, beliefs, and values. Close peer social networks have been found to sustain involvement in the arts, expand students' social networks, and increase enjoyment in arts participation. Scholars have highlighted the importance of students feeling connected to their peers in order to create a sense of belonging and to sustain engagement in the school music program. Additionally, both students and music teachers report peers have a significant influence on whether students enroll and persist in school music programs. For example, students not enrolled in a music program explained they are reluctant to participate in music classes because involvement felt abnormal for their circle of friends. Music teachers. Music teachers encourage secondary music participation in a number of ways. First, the consistent presence of a music teacher over time may encourage higher participation rates from students. Notably, schools that serve marginalized students often see high rates of music teacher turnover. Second, the students' perceptions of current and past music teachers have a significant influence on student enrollment decisions. Third, students are more likely to enroll in music classes when their current music teacher A. fosters classroom environments where the students feel connected to each other, B. offers students a voice in the direction of the class, and C. develops students' musicianship so that students feel competent and confident in their musical abilities. Implications and recommendations. Oh, wait. This is wrong. Wait. This must be changed. How do I change this? My title on the bottom is all wrong. I can't believe I did that. There. Actually. That's better. Alright, where were we? I just noticed that. Whoopsies. Oh boy, here's our first name that I don't know how to say. Oyersman and Destin have explained that students are often reluctant to engage in activities that seem incongruent with the cultural norms, community expectations, and/or values of parents and peers. Music teachers and advocacy leaders might work to encourage identity congruence between the school music program and students in the general population by applying culturally responsive practices to instruction and recruiting efforts. A music teacher may find the structure and content of their school music program, repertoire, instructional design, audience engagement, and recruiting strategies is not reflective of the cultural norms or values of some students not enrolled in a music class. the school music program may be, in essence, a closed system only open to students that match a particular social or cultural identity. In response, the music teacher might explore the communities and values of underrepresented students within their school and apply new understandings to instruction and recruiting. Over time, students may come to view the music program as an open system with access points for all students rather than a select few. Music teachers may consider the music content, type of music making, and even the overall structure of their music program, ensemble levels, types of music classes, to determine if every student in the school has access to a music class that naturally aligns with their social identity, musical values, age, and interests. In addition to culturally responsive practices, research findings have indicated that music teacher and music classroom environment are important for encouraging student enrollment. When music teachers support student competence, musical growth, relatedness, students feeling connected to each other and to the teacher, and student autonomy, students exercise choice activities are interesting and teacher provokes curiosity within their music classroom, they are in a stronger position to recruit and retain students. Man, my brains. I've just about had it for tonight. We've got one more big section after this, and I'm like, it's only 7:00 p.m. right here. I am already like ready for bed. This is really, I can barely read anymore. Okay. If a music teacher lacks a reputation for musical excellence, has difficulty forming positive relationships with students, or rarely offers students opportunities to help determine the direction of the music program, students are less likely to enroll. Music teachers can use this framework, autonomy, competence, and relatedness, to evaluate the nature of their instruction and classroom environment and adjust pedagogical practices to encourage motivation and engagement in their students. Student perceptions and peer groups also have an influence on music class enrollment. To encourage positive perceptions of their music classes, music teachers might employ a wide variety of recruiting tools, such as performing for feeder schools, music partnerships with feeder schools, increasing the visibility of music class through school performance, like singing Valentine's, spring show, bringing a friend to music day, school-wide surveys and solicitations, personal connections with students through instrument vocal tryouts, and participatory music experiences. Furthermore, when music teachers foster an environment in which students are growing musically and have a sense of belonging, students may form peer bonds that sustain involvement in the music program over time. Music teachers can encourage this sense of connection by providing meaningful projects or performances that require collective action. Examples include service projects, civic action through music, nursing home performances, interactive performances with younger students, peer-assisted learning projects, and music festivals. Music teachers likely play a crucial role in building bridges to administrators and parents. Evidence suggests that support from parents and administrators is crucial for sustaining school music programs. Music educators might consider reaching out to parents in both general and personal ways to invite students to participate in the music program. Similar to the recommendations on social identity congruence, music teachers should consider if the design of their music program is responsive to the values of parents and community members so that support for student participation occurs as a natural outflow of a community's culture. When parents express value for the school music program, they will likely support the music interests and persistence of their children. Makes sense. Okay. Almost there, guys. Oh, I'm gonna come back here. You can get comfy. Okay. I think we can all, we can still hear me. Oh. All right. Intrapersonal factors related to secondary music participation. Access to school music classes, interpersonal relationships, and social norms influence school music participation. However, the most personal predictors of enrollment in school music classes are students' expectations for success, their attitudes toward the school music program, and their perceptions of the participation costs. This section will detail how self-efficacy, attitudes, and costs influence participation in school music programs. Self-efficacy. I was just about to say, Karen Hendricks is like the first person I think of, well, after Bandura. But when I think self-efficacy, I think Dr. Karen Hendricks. Self-efficacy is the belief in one's ability to accomplish a specific task. This belief motivates individuals to become involved in an activity, engage deeply, and persist when the task becomes difficult. Students with positive views of their music abilities are more inclined to enroll in a school music program. Adolescent music self-efficacy beliefs are formed through a number of processes. First, past experiences with music activities inform the degree to which adolescents expect to be successful at future music activities. Second, self-efficacy beliefs are informed by social comparison. Often, adolescents compare themselves with influential others, such as peers, siblings, or parents, which, in turn, influences the degree to which they feel musically competent. The role of social comparison may be especially important for adolescents because some studies indicate, on average, adolescent music self-efficacy declines as social comparison increases throughout the middle and high school years. Finally, student views concerning the improvement of their music abilities may also influence their self-efficacy beliefs. Some students believe an individual's music abilities can be developed through effort, while others believe music ability is based on inherent talent. I think I've read this article. I'm just saying that for my own benefit to try to connect dots inside my head. Attitudes. An individual's personal attitudes are influential on their decision to engage in a task. In my literature review, the term attitude is used to reference an individual's value, interest, or enjoyment for a task or activity. Researchers have confirmed the relationship between positive attitudes towards school music participation, and eventual enrollment in music class. Students generally hold positive attitudes towards music activity. This finding raises an important question. If students generally have positive attitudes towards music, and if positive attitudes often lead to music participation, why is it that many students do not participate in school music programs? Undoubtedly, much of the reason is related to the basic premise of this review. Other factors beyond attitudes influence music participation. Nevertheless, researchers have highlighted how attitudinal focus within a particular domain might vary based on the setting, manner of interaction, and topic. These three distinctions may help explain why the generally positive attitudes adolescents hold towards music do not always result in school music participation. There are many examples of how attitudes towards music programs might vary based on manner of interaction, setting, and topic. For instance, adolescents' positive attitudes seem to be directed toward music listening, with most adolescents listening to music regularly. In addition to listening activities, scholars have highlighted other preferred interactions with music, such as popular music groups or lessons. DJ music production, perform, compose to share online, perform in large bands, choirs, and orchestras, and songwriting. Yeah. There is evidence to suggest that these variations in preferred manners of interaction also apply within secondary schools. For example, a survey of students in a large metropolitan area included the following. A. Students who were already involved in their school music program had a high interest in large ensemble music instruction. B. Students involved in music outside of school but not in school were more interested in smaller group instruction with individual outcomes such as music production, guitar, and piano. And C. Students who did not participate in... Lost my place again. Students who did not participate in music making inside or outside of school showed substantially less interest in school music classes overall. Adolescent attitudes may also vary based on settings, including private music instruction, community-based music groups, informal friendship-based music making, and private independent music making. Finally, music topics may further delineate the focus of the activity and thereby student attitudes, genre, styles, instrumentation, and religion. Overall, it is possible that the focus of some students' attitudes may not align with the topics or manners of music making represented by their school music program. Costs. Even when personal attitudes towards school music programs are positive and the school music program aligns with students' preferred manner of music interaction, students must negotiate the cost of enrolling in a school music class. Barron and Holloman identified 4 cost types that influence behavioral choices. First, students consider the loss of valued alternatives when engaging in a new activity. For example, music distracted me for a second there. For example, a student might be concerned that they have to give up another class or activity in order to participate in a music class. Second, students may also weigh the potential psychological costs of music participation. Psychological costs include a variety of negative psychological states such as anxiety, social pressure, and embarrassment. Weird bump on my finger. The ADHD is strong with me, right? Or the ADD, not ADHD. It is strong with me right now. Maybe if I try sitting up, it might help. Third, individuals weigh the amount of effort required to engage in a new task, effort-related cost. In this category, students might consider the financial burden, time commitment, and difficulty of the music class. Finally, students also compare their current efforts with the effort required by the new task, effort unrelated. They may compare the effort required for their existing classes or activities, e.g., challenging academic classes, with the necessary efforts of the new class, e.g., music. For example, as a final example, in one recent study on a student interest, hopefully this is like watching me struggle. Hopefully that helps somebody. That if you're struggling while you're studying, you are not alone. It doesn't matter what level of education you are at. Sometimes you're just too damn tired to study, but you need to study anyway. If that's happening to you, you're not the only one. Stay with it. You got it. Don't forget to give yourself a break every now and again, though. That's why I only tend to read one article a day. Because I work all day, and I need to have some downtime too. But, set yourself some limitations. If your body's saying no, know yourself well enough to know that it's not worth fighting. Find times when studying works for you. For me, I know if I don't work, the morning is a great time for my body to be receptive to new ideas. I'm able to read and comprehend easier. And also when I'm not working, nighttime is also a great time. When I'm working, kind of everything's shot, but I have to do it anyway. But yeah, just figure out when your body wants to learn and accommodate that. Life gets easier when you do that. Know your limits, but you got this. Hopefully watching me struggle is helpful to somebody. I'm struggling here. Okay, I was right here. As a final example, in one recent study on student interest in different types of music classes, secondary students who were not participating in school music expressed high levels of interest in several different types of music classes. However, the same students also cited loss of valued alternative costs, e.g. too busy with other activities, and effort-related costs, e.g. financial burden, as reasons for not participating in school music classes. Implications and recommendations. Research findings on music efficacy beliefs hold several implications for music educators. First, secondary music teachers can connect with local elementary school music programs to support positive elementary school music experiences. Elementary music, I'm just adding words. Hopefully I'm not changing the meaning of the text too much. Positive elementary music experiences. Sorry. Texting again. I shouldn't do that on stream. That's rude of me. Second, elementary music experiences and subsequent enrollment in secondary programs. When general music students in elementary and middle school leave their music class with stronger beliefs in their musical ability, they are more likely to enroll in secondary music classes. Second, at the secondary level, music educators might design music experiences for students who do not feel, or adding words again, who do not participate in school music classes to help them better understand their music abilities and their potential for developing their musicianship. Examples might include the following: being a friend to bring up. Bring a friend to choir day. Instrument petting zoos, voice testing. Voice testing students during recruiting season, and open participatory music experiences that occur outside the classroom. These experiences may support students' music self-efficacy because students have the opportunity to gain a clearer understanding of their current music strengths and weaknesses, and demonstrate a clear path for strengthening their music abilities. It is possible that with strong elementary school experiences in music and specific reminders of music potential at the secondary level, students who otherwise might not have joined a music class may enroll. The findings from this review of literature also suggest that students' attitudes toward the music programs may have an impact on student enrollment decisions. It may be beneficial for music teachers to carefully consider how the manners of interaction, performing, creating, and learning style, and topics, genre, style, and instrumentation represented in their music curriculum align or diverge with student attitudes. In this highly individualized process, solutions may range from adjusting lost my place. Solutions may range from adjusting an existing class, e.g. adding songwriting composition to choir or band, considering music selection and performance practice, adding entirely new classes, e.g. music technology and production, modern band, hip-hop beat production and rapping, and steel pans. Ooh, steel pans. Yeah, man. Or even removing some music classes. Music teachers may wish to design their music program such that as many students as possible are able to find and participate in a music class that aligns with their interests and values. Concerning costs to participation, some schools have found success working among and between students' many obligations to create situations where students are able to participate in multiple activities while also participating in school music classes. Music teachers should carefully consider which types of costs the students are most concerned with. A. Loss of valued alternatives. B. Psychological costs. C. Effort-related costs. And D. Effort-unrelated costs. With this information, music teachers might work to redesign music classes, alter scheduling models, and even change after-school schedules to maximize opportunities for participation in music classes. It is important to note that music teachers who teach in small schools and charter schools may be particularly affected by student costs because smaller school populations will inherently require students to be involved in many different types of activities. Music teachers, music teacher educators, and advocacy organizations may need to become attuned to this particular challenge and support pre-service and in-service teachers with strategies and funding to meet the needs of small school music programs. I need a trumpet fanfare. Conclusion. Yes. This was an uphill walk, let me tell you. The purpose of this review of literature was to examine the factors related to student participation in secondary school music programs and explore how music educators might draw on research findings to encourage music participation. Supporting secondary music participation requires a multifaceted approach because it is a complex issue. Collective efforts of numerous parties working on a variety of solutions within their sphere of influence may ultimately pave the way for equitable, sustained, and growing participation in school music classes. Each stakeholder should determine which factors constrain or encourage secondary music participation within their own setting and work proactively to address these issues. Based on the findings from this review, I suggest that music teachers, administrators, advocacy leaders, and music teacher educators could focus their efforts to increase secondary music participation in three primary areas: structural, interpersonal, and intrapersonal. Structural factors are related to the contextual influences that support or block equitable access to secondary music classes. These factors range from macro influences such as the lack of music instruction in some small and charter schools to micro influences such as the scheduling practices within a school that impede access to school music classes for certain groups of students. Interpersonal factors refer to students' cultural and social identities and how those identities interact with societal norms and significant others, i.e., parents, peers, music teachers, and community members. Music teachers may need to examine how the interpersonal relationships in their students' lives encourage or discourage music participation. Furthermore, music teachers might consider how to encourage music participation by working toward positive relationships with specific peer groups, parents, and community members. Finally, intrapersonal factors include students' perceptions of their own music abilities, self-efficacy, their attitude toward different types of music activity, e.g., interests and importance, and the costs associated with music participation. To address interpersonal factors, one approach music teachers might take is to adjust the secondary music curriculum to align with the values and interests of students in the school. However, music teachers could also employ another approach and work to address students' doubts about their personal music abilities and show students how they might fit music classes into their other school activities. Undoubtedly, every school is unique. Each music teacher must consider which factors most impact music participation at their school and work to address them in support of music education for all. The end. Take a look at the reference list for, reference. I have not read that Dweck. Sorry, I got distracted reading in my head. The end. Next time I see you all, we're going to be looking at, let's see. Let me find my list of what's next. Oh, we're going to be looking at Modern Band by Brian Powell. A review of literature. When was this published? 2021. Okay. Nice. So that'll be a interesting one. So the article we read today was discussing the idea that maybe we should be updating our curriculum to, instead of, pretty much exclusively offering band, orchestra, choir, those sorts of classes, maybe we should be updating our curriculum to include classes that more align with what our students would naturally be interested in doing. And tomorrow we're going to look at one school of thought's solution to that problem, which is modern band. I guess I might as well read you the implications as a sort of trailer, I guess. Implications for music teaching and learning. Modern band programs in schools can expand access to music for students not currently participating in bands, choirs, and orchestras. See, this is like I planned this. They're going right from one to the as a perfect segue. It has nothing to do with me. I didn't plan it at all. It's just coming alphabetically by author's last name. But I'll take credit for doing that. I did that. I alphabetized them. Modern bands do not negatively affect student enrollment in other school music ensembles. Teachers can increase their own music skills and sense of excitement about their music programs through the incorporation of modern band. Students reported positive social, emotional, and musical development as a result of their participation in modern band. And finally, effective modern band professional development should occur over a sustained period of time and allow the teacher to reflect on their curricular beliefs and practices. So, there you go. That is, we'll learn more about what modern band is next time I see you all, which hopefully will be tomorrow night. That's the idea. Bring a friend. Learn something else about music education, or just listen to me while you fall asleep. That's fine too. Thanks for sticking around with me through all of the stumbling that I had. Again, keep on studying. See you tomorrow.